Hello, welcome back to my channel where today I'm going to be ranking all of my ColourPop palettes. ColourPop was the first company that kind of launched me into eyeshadow in general. I started playing with eyeshadow about 10 months ago, and ColourPop was the brand that I sort of fell into, and I'm so glad I did because it's such a great quality brand, and I ended up buying kind of a lot from that brand. I will say I have decluttered a few palettes over the last year-ish. Just as I've kind of refined my style and discovered what my tastes and preferences and aesthetics were, but I do still have, I think I counted 15 ColourPop palettes, and this is after a declutter. So now I'm going to take the time to sit and rank them for you. And for me too, because it's fun. I did film this eyeshadow look. This was the first time using Glam Light. I grabbed the Michaela palette. So if you want to see how I did this look, I will link that down below. And if you haven't been here before, hello. My name is Rachel. I'm just a homeschooling stay-at-home mom who loves to play with colorful eyeshadow. So if you want to see tutorials and similar content on your timeline, then please consider liking and subscribing. You can comment, you can hit the notification bell to be alerted when there are new videos posted, and you can find me on Instagram at Shimmers and Silver. So let's get to it. Just kind of scooching to the side a little bit, and I am going to start. This one doesn't count. This is the Play It Jewel palette from ColourPop, obviously. I just got this for Christmas, and I didn't buy this one. Most of my Christmas gifts this year I bought myself using Black Friday sales, and then I wrapped them, put them under the tree, and didn't allow myself to play with them until after Christmas. This is not one of those. This was actually purchased for me by a family member, so I was really excited to get this one because I didn't know it was coming, but I haven't used it at all, so I'm not going to include it in this ranking video because it wouldn't be fair. So I just wanted to mention that. I do own this palette. I will be doing some tutorials on it, and I'm probably going to mention it later in this video for a different reason, but I'm not going to include it in the ranking because I haven't tried it. Next in the ranking is the Misunderstood palette. This was part of the Disney Villains collaboration, and I bought this palette because I thought it was really pretty. I'm sorry if the metallic is blinding you. I really hate this inner packaging. BH Cosmetics does it a lot too. Anyway, the reason that this palette is ranked so low is because it has almost no mattes. I think it has 4 mattes. 1, 2, 3, oh no, it has 5 mattes, one of which is white, one of which is black. So matte, matte, and then these 3 mattes here. And there's just, my eyeshadow preferences would be more matte and then a shimmer as like a really high shine accent color. But if there's a palette that has this many shades and no matte and almost no mattes, it's just kind of hard for me to come up with a look because all of my transition tones are either going to be this peach, which is close to my natural skin color, this orangey, like rusty orange sort of color, or a really dark blue. This is a great deepening out shade, but for a transition shade, it's just difficult. Aside from that though, it's got some really nice metallics. I actually, if you watched my declutter video for 2021, I had decided to declutter this, and then I was doing a look, I was shopping my stash and I really needed a metallic gold, and I pulled this one out and it worked so well, I decided to add this one back into my stash. So it's in my stash, but you'll notice it's pretty low in the rankings. So I'm gonna see if this one survives a second declutter. The next palette is the Lizzie McGuire What Dreams Are Made Of palette. This one's really cute. I love the color story. I love the bright pinks and purples and greens. They all work really nicely together. I like the packaging as well. It's got a lot of details. The collaboration packaging is always done so nicely, and ColourPop does a great job with their cardboard packaging. This one's got some raised elements. It's sort of embossed. It's got little foiled things over here and the same details on the back as well. This palette has 1 pressed glitter, which I do not like. I like the color of it, but I don't like pressed glitters. So that is kind of a mark against it. And then it's got a good deepening shade over here, but I think it's pretty low just because it doesn't have a lot of depth. And what I do like about this palette is you've got a matte green, a shimmer green, a matte pink, and a shimmery pink. A different matte over here. You've got this purpley color that could work with your purples over here. You've got 2 different shimmer purples. It is a nice palette and it's got some variety. It just doesn't have as many lighter, more transition tones that I would like, and it doesn't always have a shimmer that really works with all of the matte options, you know? So that's why that one is a little bit lower. Next is the So Very Lovely palette. This one I bought kind of on a whim. It had been like floating around my brain for a little while, and I finally decided, you know what, I'll just go ahead and get it. I think again it was while I was discovering what my style was and what my personality was. I do like this palette. I never reach for this palette, but I do really like it. I was a little disappointed in this shade. I wanted this to be much more pigmented, and it's kind of on the dustier side. This shade is gorgeous. This is a really beautiful deepening out shade. And this palette has some great shimmers, no glitters, and you can actually get surprisingly different looks from it. You can go the more purple route. You could go a more peachy sort of route. You could just go in with this, which is like a deep burgundy plum color, and use it with any of these. It would even work with the red if you're careful. You can go like a red gold or a bronzy sort of thing, and the shimmers in here are really special. And this shade, while it is close to my skin tone, it's more peachy, so I still actually can see this on my lid. So I don't know why I don't reach for this palette. It doesn't excite me, but I liked it enough to keep it. And that actually reminds me, in my declutter video, I had decided to give this one to my daughter. And then when she went through all of the palettes that I was gonna declutter and chose the two that she wanted, again, I looked at this one and I traded out this one for a different one that I decided to keep and switched them out. So this one survived the declutter, and I have potential plans for this one, which I'll mention at the end. The next two palettes in my lineup are these guys. These are the little 5 pans from ColourPop. We'll go with the pink one first. This is a very pretty palette. I would say I wish that there was more difference in the shimmers, maybe a red shimmer instead of a pink, because this one's like a slightly peachy pink and this one's a more bubblegum pink, but they're both pretty standard pink shimmers. I mean, they're nice, but they are too close in color for me. And then this is a great matte, and then we've got a more reddish deepening shade. So this one's really fun. I don't use it very often, but when I want to go for like a really pink look, this is what I grab. Sorry, I forgot to mention, this is the Too Haute palette from the Too Haute to Handle, Coming in Haute, something like that. Don't remember. And now this is the Lyric palette. I'm not going to open this one because this shade has shattered, and if you can see, is just flying around the package. Also, I dropped it like 4 times just now, which just helped it shatter more. Also, this one has a pressed glitter, but it's not a terrible pressed glitter. It's kind of suspended in a little gel, so I think when I use this palette, I have used the pressed glitter, and I'm just very careful about taking my makeup off. This is like the only neutral palette I have as far as browns. I have brown eyes, I have mainly brown hair, and now and then I want to do a brown eye look, but not very often, so I opted to get a small version of a brown palette. So I really like the colors in here. This is a really beautiful deep brown shimmer. This is like a chocolatey brown with like a hint of purple, and then over here we've got a standard brown. So I do like this palette. I'm really bummed that this shade busted because I liked this one, but anyway, this is the Lyric palette. Okay, now we're coming to Limoncello. I adore the packaging of this palette. It's thicker, it's sturdier, it's just got really nice elements like over, this is raised and embossed. This over here, these lemons have texture to them like the skin of a lemon. And then back here, the same thing. We've got little what are they called? I forget what they're called. The little things that come out of the center of a flower, stamens. We've got little stamens over here that are embossed, raised, and foiled, and oh, I lived in Italy for not long enough, and I love everything Italian, the culture, the language, the music, the food, the people, just everything. And this packaging is my happy place. So it's hard to rank this one lower. The reason I don't have this higher is because this is not my ideal color story. If I want yellow, or if I want more muted, lighter brown neutrals, then this is a good option for me, but it does have a pop of blue, a pop of green, more of a bright lemony yellow. The large pans mean that I'm never gonna run out of these shades. I wish I had more of a lemon yellow. Like this is more, to me, of a sunflower or yellow mustard yellow, but I wanted a bright lemon yellow, and this palette doesn't have that. But it does have a variety of different tones. I would say these two are a little bit too close, but everything else is different. You know, we've got a deepening shade here. We've got shimmers in all different tones. Green shimmer, yellow shimmer. This is a brown shimmer, but it's got some like greenish flecks to it. This is more of an orangey with peach shift shimmer. Over here you've got a lighter, more champagne shimmer. It's a nice blend of mattes and shimmers and a diversity of colors and depths So I do like this palette. I feel like this palette was underrated. Like, I don't often hear people raving about it, but once in a while I'll catch a video on YouTube where somebody mentions the Limoncello palette and a whole bunch of commenters will be like, yes, that's my favorite, my go-to palette. So it's just interesting to see different strokes for different folks, I guess. But I do like this palette, and when I'm wearing yellow, this is the one I think of. Now we've got some ColourPop monochromatic palettes coming up. This is the High Tide palette. It's got little sea urchins. I love their cardboard packaging. They do it so well. This is a really good mix of, again, mattes and shimmers, and it's got a lot of depth. We've got some really light tones up here, and then we can deepen it out with two different options if we want to go for the more blue teal side, or if we want to go for the deeper, murkier side of things over here. And then there are 3 shimmers, and they're all different tones. Here you've got a more of a gray based shimmer. This is more of a true minty shimmer, and then this is a deep sort of duochrome. I think it has like a brownish undertone, sort of. I don't know, it's different. And then this little one up here has the sparkle in it. I think it's called a satin formula from ColourPop, but this palette's nice. I mean, it's a monochromatic palette, but it has enough depth and variety within the palette itself that you can get different looks. It's some of ColourPop's monochromatic palettes, I think, were kind of one-note wonders where no matter what you did, it was going to look the same, and I actually got rid of several for that reason. But High Tide isn't like that. So I could do a teal look that is clearly teal and have enough choices within this palette to make it varied. So that's High Tide. The next one I'm going to mention is Mint to Be. Mint to Be is in the plastic packaging, which I don't like, but it does have a mirror, so that's nice. I'll try not to blind you. I'm still learning how to hold these palettes so that it doesn't look awful on camera. Mint to Be, again, monochromatic, but again, it has a lot of tone and different options. Like, these are all very true minty tones, but in totally different families. Like here you've got more teal-y mint, and over here, similar to the teal palette High Tide, you have more of a gray-based oceanic sort of mint. Still minty, but not bubblegum, you know. Over here is a mint, but it's got more green depth to it. This is a very mint shimmer. Here is a light, but still minty shimmer. So over here is a great inner corner highlight color, which is trying not to fall out of my pan. You've got really light colors over here, and then you've got darker one over here, so you've got the option to blend to deepen it out if you want to. I just think that if you're looking for mint, this is a great option. I have the Wilderness palette from Beauty Bay, which has like 3 or 4 minty shades to it, and those are good too, but when I think Mint to Be. Next up is the Lilac You a Lot palette. For me, this is just a light purple staple. I love purple eyeshadow, and I find that I don't actually have a ton of it. Today I'm wearing purple because today was the first day using Glam Light, and I grabbed the Michaela palette, so that was today's look. And again, if you want to see how I did this one, there will be a tutorial for it linked in the description box below. But this is the Lilac You a Lot palette. This one, same reason, lots of variety within the same family. This one, again, has a lot of light shades. It's got a couple of darkening shades. It's got 4 shimmers, which are all different. We got a bubblegum shimmer over here. This is kind of a mauvey shimmer, but it's got a blue shift. This is a true lavender shimmer. And then over here we have a much lighter, kind of whimsical, pinky lilac sort of shimmer. It's very pretty. And then this, the first time I got this palette, I thought that this was more brown, but when I put it on the eyes, it's this unexpected purple color. It's really neat. And then we've got like a bubblegum pink with lilac undertones. This is done really well. If you like light purple, this is just a great monochromatic palette, but not a one-hit wonder. It's not a one-note palette. You can go several different directions within these 9 shades. So I definitely like the Lilac You a Lot palette from ColourPop. Okay, and now we're getting into blue. This is the Blue Moon palette. They did a lighter version of this called On Cloud Blue, which I didn't buy. I'm so glad I didn't buy that one because look at this. The On Cloud Blue was a much more pastel version, and I like the rich jewel tones. So this is right up my alley. This is a fantastic palette. It has mattes, it has shimmers, it has an inner corner or brow highlight color. It has really deep shades here. You can go with like more of a periwinkle blue, or more of a royal blue, or more of a sky blue. And again, 4 different shimmers in totally different tones. This shimmer up here is Lumi. It's almost a topper shade, but you could totally use it as like a full-on metallic. This is a very light, iridescent blue-white shimmer. This shimmer, it has more gray undertones. It's like denim. This shimmer right here, Tide Pool, is an electric blue. It's really striking. And then this one over here, Mad About You, is more of a deep oceanic sort of color. More navy. It's a really good match with this one here called Clued In. This is a great palette. If you watch Angelica Nyquist, you know that blue is her favorite eyeshadow color to wear, and she has voted this to be like top. For a while it was her #1 favorite blue eyeshadow palette. I think now it's like top 3 because a few other companies have launched some really good blues, but this is an awesome palette. And the reason I'm glad I got this one instead of the On Cloud Blue is because I love those deep, rich tones, and they just... Blue eyeshadow for a while scared me. I remember when I was a teenager, I wore blue eyeshadow one day and my coworker was like, "Blue, isn't that the color prostitutes wear?" And yeah, that was my coworker. Really nice, right? And that sort of scared me for a while. And I understood that blue was a difficult color because blue was very 1980s, where you just throw on some blue eyeshadow and you go to town. My mom wore blue eyeshadow at her wedding in 1980. And I think that's the one that I wore to work because my mom was never really into makeup or anything, and so the eyeshadow that she had at her wedding was in our cabinet, all dusty and old, like 25 years later. Anyway, I digress. Blue eyeshadow can be scary, but if you do it well, it's so striking, it's so beautiful, it's so interesting, it's so unexpected. This is an awesome palette if you want to try blue eyeshadow. Okay, I think we only have 4 left. The next one in the list is Sprinkle a Little Magic. Again, just like Limoncello, this is higher quality packaging. It's very sturdy, it's very thick, it feels nice. This one has some fantastic details. Not only do we have some embossed areas and metallic and foiled over here, there is actual glitter on this, which some people don't like because it tends to come off on the fingers, but this is really beautiful. The details that have been put into this packaging are special. Now let me carefully open this. Earlier today, one of my shadows in here shattered, so I'm going to hold this carefully because another one is clearly planning on shattering. I think this might be ColourPop's Super Shock formula. These right here. I'm gonna hold it this way a little bit because I don't want it to fall all over me. Anyway, this is a really beautiful palette. The shadows in here are great quality. It's a little shimmer heavy, but it's Tinkerbell, and you kind of expect it to be pretty heavy on the shimmers. My only complaint with this palette is these 2 mattes are too similar. I would like a more medium toned pink, or maybe like a berry or something. But aside from that, I really like this palette. It's got the lighter tones, it's got a deepening shade, there's a shimmer to work with each of the mattes, so you've got a movie pinky matte shimmer here that works with these mattes. This shimmer is gold, but it has a sort of a pink undertone. Then you've got this deepening shade over here with a matching shimmer. And then you've got this spring green with, again, a matching more minty shimmer. And then you have this shimmer in the middle, which is green, but with a more yellowy tone. It's got a lot of variety. It's got light to dark. It's just really good quality. And I think I've had 3 palettes now where the very soft formula, I don't know for sure if it's the Super Shock formula because I don't own any individual Super Shock shadows, but I think it is, and they've shattered on me in this palette, in the Wine and Only palette, and in that Lyric palette that I just accidentally threw across the room. I understand if I'm abusing a palette that I might lose a shadow. I get that. So the Lyric I can understand, but I didn't do anything mean to Wine and Only, and I had 2 shadows in that one that shattered. And I didn't do anything mean to this one either. It just, I don't know. So I do really like this palette. I would recommend it for sure if you like these tones. I would just say be careful with it. All right, now we're on to the last 3, the top 3. And I've decided that with my top 3 palettes from each of my ranking videos, I'll probably just do BH Cosmetics and ColourPop. But I've decided that my top 3 from each ranking video, I'm gonna do a separate video with a look using those 3 palettes. So these last 3 palettes will be featured in a tutorial video coming up soon. Next is the Child palette from the ColourPop and Mandalorian Star Wars collection. This palette is done so well, and this is another one of those shadows that might at some point shatter on me. This palette's done so well. First off, packaging. It's the cardboard packaging, so they've got so many more options for making it awesome, and they do make it awesome. They've got this adorable little baby Yoda. They have all these little details, again, embossed, raised elements. We've got foiling, got these little dots everywhere. Baby Yoda's here too. It says cutest in the galaxy. All of that aside, this is a very well curated palette. To start off with the basics, we have light to dark. We've got more neutral shades over here, like this one and a deepening shade here, and then we have the green side of things. We've got a minty green and more of a mossy and forest green combo over here. We've got 4 shimmers, again, all different. There's a beautiful highlight shimmer here that has like gold flecks to it. This one here is more silvery. This one is very gold, more of an antiqued gold sort of shimmer. And then this shimmer is green. Everything within this palette works with everything else within this palette. I recently did a tutorial using these more green shades, and I ended up using both the gold and the silver shimmer. If you wanted to go silver, there's a shimmer for that, and some cooler toned greens. If you wanted to go gold, there's a shimmer for that, and more deep, warm toned colors to use as well. There's a highlight shade. I always love it when a palette has a great highlight shade. This palette was just done really well. The colors work together nicely. There's cohesion. They clearly put a lot of thought into what they were going to use and where they were going to place it, so you could see like families of color stories. It's just really well done. I have a couple other green palettes now because I've discovered that I love green eyeshadow, but this guy still ranks very high. So yeah, The Child is a great palette. It's a couple of dollars more because it's in collaboration with Star Wars, but sometimes you can get it on sale, or if you have an account with like a secondhand cosmetics site or something like Poshmark, often find the Child palette for a few dollars less. Okay, we are at the last 2, and I will be truthful, I can't decide which one I love more. So, I'll give you a second to sort of get your guess in as far as which ones these are gonna be. I have done, I think, 2 looks at least for both of these palettes, and they are At Forest Sight with Raw Beauty Kristi and Lush Life. Let's just take a moment. Give these palettes their due. I'm going to talk about At Forest Sight first and then Lush Life, just because this one was in my right hand. I was so excited to get the At Forest Sight palette. I came on the eyeshadow scene long after this thing was sold out, possibly restocked, sold out again, I don't know. It was nowhere to be found. Not only was it sold out, but so often something gets super hyped and it sells out, and then within a few months, people are like, oh, I don't use it, I don't like it, it's not as great as I thought it would be, whatever, and they start selling it off. So on sites like Poshmark, you can find a lot of like really hyped palettes for a great discount a little while later. Not so with the At Forest Sight palette. This palette was hyped, loved, and continues to be loved. It's pretty difficult to find a secondhand At Forest Sight palette, and if you do, most of the time it's outrageously priced. Like, I'm not going to spend $100 on an eyeshadow palette. I'm just not. Hello, I'm on a budget. But I finally found this on Poshmark, and I was able to negotiate it down to a very reasonable price, and I was so excited. Let's talk about this for a second. The first time I saw this palette, I knew that I would just love it. I do watercolor painting. I love the packaging. I love its cute, but not cutesy. It's cartoonish, but still elegant and tasteful. The packaging on this is done so well. I love the colors that they picked. I love everything. I love the name. It carries through to the back, but not in an obnoxious way. The only thing that's raised or embossed on this palette is the name itself, At Forest Sight, on both sides. Everything else just has that sort of shimmery wet effect, but it's not raised, it's just there. And if you've watched Raw Beauty Kristi's story on how she came up with the idea, how she chose the colors, how she named it, and then the inside. These colors are so gorgeous. They are pigmented, they have depth, they have personality, they are full, rich, luxurious colors. Packaging carries through to the inside also, but the colors, oh, they're so beautiful, and they work with the packaging. It all just speaks to everything else. This palette is matte heavy because Kristi prefers mattes and then a couple of shimmers. She did launch at the same time some separate shimmers if you wanted to sort of complement the collection, but there are only 2 shimmers in here, and they're these 2. And you will notice, again, just like the Child palette, everything works with everything else. You could choose randomly any of these shades and create a cohesive, beautiful, well-appointed eye look. The shimmers, even though they're very different, they also work with everything else. This is a gold shimmer. It's a beautiful, vibrant gold, and it works with all of these gorgeous, deep, luxurious jewel tones. And then this over here, it's kind of a brown, kind of a green. It's duochrome with a shift to it. Again, it works with every matte in the pan. And all of the mattes work with every other matte in the pan. You can go for the more neutral side of things with the peach and the brown and the green, like earth tones. You could go more ocean depth with blue and green over here. There's a black over here that has little bronzy flecks to it. And then we've got Amanita here, which is a gorgeous berry, plummy sort of purple. And then we've got a deeper color here. We've got a nice range of lights and darks. This palette is so beautiful. I was so excited to get it. I'm so excited that it's mine and I have it and it's gorgeous. Raw Beauty Kristi did a fantastic job with ColourPop on this palette. It will, fabulous. This is definitely tied for #1. And then of course the other one tied for first place is Lush Life. I think that At Forest Sight was released in 2020. I'm pretty sure of that. I meant to look it up before the video, but anyway. Lush Life was released in 2021. Lush Life is a fantastic palette also. Let's first appreciate the coloring and the packaging. I love it when the packaging reflects what you're going to find on the inside of the palette. Not all of them do that. Like, why don't all of them do that? Where you look at the box and you know what the colors on the inside are going to be. That's so helpful, especially if they're stacked up in your house and you have 45 palettes in a row. You're like, gee, what colors do I want today? I want these colors. I wish they would all do that. I think maybe the more luxury brands don't do that because they might think it's not as classy, but it's helpful to a consumer. Anyway, the embossed elements are the words, it's themselves, Lush Life, and then all these other little details are just foiled, except for the toucan. And then same thing on the back, Lush Life is embossed, these are all foiled. Oh yeah, and the little toucan is sort of a shiny little fellow. And then the inside of Lush Life, amazing, so pretty. I have to say, I don't love this reflective gold packaging. I find it almost as distracting as the silver one that captures every color. This is almost as bad as that. I don't like it, but it works with these shades. This palette has tons of variety. It's not quite as cohesive as At Forest Sight, so if I had to choose, I might rank this one a tiny bit lower. But really, all these shades work together well. You can still make them work. And you have, sort of in rows, you've got a corally reddish row, you've got the green row, the blue brownish goldish row, and then here you've got more of a brown mauve sort of row. And you have shimmers that accompany mattes. Green shimmer, green matte, reddish brown shimmer, reddish brown matte, like terracotta. Bluish teal shimmer, blue matte. Also over here, they work together. And then you've got this matte, this shimmer works with this matte and this matte. Everything goes well together. Everything works. The quality of these shadows is beautiful. I think I saw one video on YouTube where the reviewer was raving about how bad the palette was. And I have to say, the problem was not the palette. The problem was her technique, her application, where she started, how much she dug into the shadows. Like, she didn't give the palette any kind of a chance to perform well because she was very heavy-handed and just the technique was the problem. But literally every other video I've seen using the Lush Life palette has been a rave review about how amazing it is, and I could not agree more. It's a really well done, well curated, well thought out, interesting palette. I've never seen a color story quite like this, and there's so much makeup on the market. I get overwhelmed just thinking about it, but when I saw this palette, I knew that it was different. I hadn't seen anything like it before, and it is absolutely worth having. I have a friend on Instagram. She got this palette during ColourPop's like $5 sale. Such a good deal. Such a good deal. She's gonna make some gorgeous looks with it because she has a really bold style, so I look forward to seeing what she does with it. I'll probably try to mimic a few of her looks. Anyway, this is an awesome palette. Okay, so that is it for the ranking. And before we go, I did want to say something. The Play It Jewel palette, my thoughts on this palette are overall excitement, and I really like almost all of the colors in here. But I think that this palette has too many repeats. For example, oh my goodness, this one, this one, this one are all almost the same, and they're all very close to my skin tone. These two are very similar. This one's a little more peachy, this one's a little more orangey, but they're super close. These two, this one and this, not enough difference. These two and this one, more orangey, more brown. Honestly, there are like 6 to 7 shades in this palette, which I will probably never use. So what I'm thinking of doing with this palette is doing a couple of tutorials, maybe a few palette bingos to really get into it, get some variety, have a lot of fun with it. But I can tell you that unless I choose one of those numbers in a palette bingo, I don't think I'm going to use those 6 or 7 shades at all. So what I'm thinking of doing is taking my So Very Lovely palette, which I've gone back and forth on and have really thought about, like planned on decluttering, almost decluttered, and then changed my mind. I think I might take out those 6 or 7 shades that I'm not going to use in the Play It Jewel palette and replace them with some shades from here. There are several colors in here that I really like, but I didn't like all of the colors in here enough to keep the palette, so I'm kind of thinking I might do a little switcheroo. I don't know. I haven't fully decided. I'm torn because part of me wants to try to pass this along or sell it as is so someone else can get the benefit of it. But I do really like a lot of these tones. I really like the shimmers, and I thought, well, what if I just take the exciting shades in here and replace the unexciting shades in here, and then I have all exciting shades. So I wanted to mention that, but if I do that, it would be after I have done some tutorials using Play It Jewel by itself, because I don't want to confuse anybody who may be following along. So that was just a little aside. I'm kind of mulling that idea over in my mind. So that is my ColourPop ranking video. As promised, I will be taking these top 3 palettes and doing a tutorial using all 3 of them, so that'll be fun. I'll have to make sure I remember to do that. But this was a lot of fun. Just like a declutter video, I really enjoyed going through my stash and really assessing what do I have and why. Do I like it? Should I get rid of it? Should I start like some sort of rotation so I make sure things that I love actually get used regularly, especially as I bring new things in. And I like the ranking videos because if something is ranked really low and I still don't touch it, that tells me that I should get rid of it. Like pass it along to somebody who will love it more than I do. So ranking videos I find are not only helpful, but also really fun to watch. So I hope you enjoyed watching this one, and the next ranking video I do will be BH Cosmetics. And that's probably the only other one because I don't have enough of any other brand to really do a ranking video. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much for giving me just a small sliver of your day, and until I see you again, have a wonderful day. Bye!